Greetings, philosophers. Hope you're well today. I missed the last couple of days. I've been dealing with the physical and mental problems that you encounter in day 2 and 3 of fasting. It's been quite a challenge, but we are on day 4 of the fast, and so far I'm doing pretty good. I'm a little scatterbrained, like it's a little bit hard to focus. But most of the sort of hunger pains have gone away, and things are good. It's trippy to realize that you don't have to eat every day. Like, nothing terrible happens. Like, the world doesn't end when you don't eat. It's pretty wild. Anyway, let's get into it. Let's see if I can read. Let's see if I can focus. Letter 11. I have had a conversation with your talented friend. From the very beginning of his talk with me, it was apparent what considerable gifts of character and intelligence he possesses. He gave me a foretaste of his capabilities, to which he will certainly live up, for the things he said caught, as he was quite off his guard, were entirely unrehearsed. As he was recovering his self-possession, he could scarcely get over his embarrassment, always a good sign in a young man. So deep had the blush been that suffused his face. This I rather suspect will remain with him even when he has built up his character and stripped it of all weakness, even when he has become a wise man. For no amount of wisdom enables one to do away with physical or mental weaknesses that arise from natural causes. Anything inborn or ingrained in one can by dint of practice be allayed, but not overcome. When they face a crowd of people, some men, even ones with the stoutest of hearts, break into the sort of sweat one usually sees on persons in an overheated and exhausted state. Some men experience a trembling at the knees when they are about to speak. Some, a chattering of the teeth, a stuttering tongue, or stammering lips. These are things which neither training nor experience ever eliminates. Nature just wields her power and uses the particular weaknesses to make even the strongest conscious of her. One of these things I well know is a blush, which has a habit of suddenly reddening the faces of men, even the most dignified demeanor. It is of course more noticeable in the young, with their hotter blood and sensitive complexions. Nevertheless, seasoned men and aging men alike are affected by it. Some men are more to be feared on the occasions when they flush than at any other time, as if in so doing they let loose all their inhibitions. Sulla was at his wildest when the blood had rushed to his visage. No features were more susceptible than Pompey's. He never failed to blush in company, and particularly at public meetings. I remember Fabianus blushing when he appeared to give evidence before the Senate, and this bashfulness looked wonderfully well on him. When this happens, it is not due to some mental infirmity, but to the unfamiliarity of some situation or other, which may not necessarily strike any alarm into inexperienced people, but does produce a reaction in them if they are thus liable through having a natural physical predisposition to it. Certain people have good, ordinary blood, and others just have an animated, lively sort of blood that comes to the face quickly. What are we talking about? No amount of wisdom, as I said before, ever banishes these things. Otherwise, if she eradicated every weakness, wisdom would have dominion over the world of nature. One's physical makeup, and the attributes that were one's lot at birth remain settled no matter how much or how long the personality may strive after perfect adjustment. One cannot ban these things any more than one can call them up. The tokens used to portray embarrassment by professional actors, those actors who portray emotion, simulate unhappiness, and reproduce for us fear and apprehension, are a hanging of the head, a dropping of the voice, a casting down of the eyes and keeping them fixed on the ground. A blush is something they can never manage to reproduce. It is something that will neither be summoned up nor be told to stay away. Against these things, philosophy holds out no remedy and avails one nothing. They are quite independent. They come unbidden. They go unbidden. My letter calls for a conclusion. Here's one for you. One that will serve you in good stead too, which I'd like you to take to heart. Quote, "We need to set our affections on some good man and keep him constantly before our eyes, so that we may live as if he were watching us and do everything as if he saw what we were doing." End quote. This, my dear Lucilius, is Epicurus's advice, and in giving it he has given us a guardian and a moral tutor, and not without reason either. Misdeeds are greatly diminished if a witness is always standing near, intending doers. The personality should be provided with someone it can revere, someone whose influence can make even its private inner life more pure. Happy the man who improves other people not merely when he is in their presence, but even when he is in their thoughts. And happy, too, is the person who can so revere another as to adjust and shape his own personality in the light of recollections, even of that other. A person able to revere another thus will soon deserve to be revered himself. So choose yourself a Cato, or, if Cato seems too severe for you, a Laelius, a man whose character is not quite so strict. Choose someone whose way of life, as well as words, and whose very face as mirroring the character that lies behind it, have won your approval. Be always pointing him out to yourself either as your guardian or as your model. There is a need, in my view, for someone as a standard against which our characters can measure themselves. Without a ruler to do it against, you won't make the crooked straight. I like that. I like that. I like that advice. I'm going to spend some time today thinking about and probably picking one or a couple people in that regard to see how it works out. Interesting. Without a ruler to do it against, you won't make the crooked straight. Letter 12. Wherever I turn, I see fresh evidence of my old age. I visited my place just out of Rome recently and was grumbling about the expense of maintaining the building, which was in a dilapidated state. My manager told me the trouble wasn't due to any neglect on his part. He was doing his utmost, but the house was old. That house had taken shape under my own hands. What's to become of me if stones of my own age are crumbling like that? Losing my temper, I seized at the first excuse that presented itself for venting my irritation on him. "It's quite clear," I said, "that these plain trees are being neglected. There's no foliage on them. Look at those knotty, dried-up branches and those wretched flanking trunks. That wouldn't happen if someone dug around them and watered them." He swore by my guardian angel he was doing his utmost. In everything his care was unremitting, but the poor things were just old. Between you and me now, I had planted them myself and seen the first leaf appearing on them myself. Then, turning towards the front door, I said, "Who's that? Who's that decrepit old person? The door's the proper place for him, all right. He looks as if he's on the way out. Where did you get him from? What was the attraction in taking over someone else's dead for burial?" Jesus. Wow. Whereupon the man said, "Don't you recognize me? I'm Felicio. You used to bring me toy figures." Ooh. "I'm the son of the manager, Felicitas, your pet playmate." "The man's absolutely crazy," I said. "Become a little child again. He actually calls himself my playmate? Well, the way he's losing his teeth at this very moment, it's perfectly possible." Good. So I owe it to this place of mine, near town, that my old age was made clear to me at every turn. Well, we should cherish old age and enjoy it. It is full of pleasure if you know how to use it. Fruit tastes most delicious just when its season is ending. The charms of youth are at their greatest at the time of its passing. It is the final glass which pleases the inveterate drinker, the one that sets the crowning touch on his intoxication and sends him off into oblivion. Every pleasure defers till its greatest delights. The time of life which offers the greatest delights is the age that sees the downward movement, not the steep decline already begun, and in my opinion, even the age that stands on the brink has pleasures of its own, or else the very fact of not experiencing the want of any pleasures takes their place. How nice it is to have outworn one's desires and left them behind. It's not very pleasant, though, you may say, to have death right before one's eyes. To this I would say, firstly, that death ought to be right before the eyes of a young man just as much as an old one. The order in which we each receive our summons is not determined by our precedence in the register. And secondly, that no one is so very old that it would be quite unnatural for him to hope for one more day. Every day, therefore, should be regulated as if it were the one that brings up the rear, the one that rounds out and completes our lives. Pacuvius, the man who acquired a right to Syria by prescription, was in the habit of conducting a memorial ceremony for himself with wine and funeral feasting of the kind we are familiar with, and then being carried on a bier from the dinner table to his bed, while a chanting to music went on of the words, he has lived, in Greek, amid the applause of the young libertines present. Never a day passed but he celebrated his own funeral. What he did from discreditable motives, we should do from honorable ones, saying in all joyfulness and cheerfulness as we retire to our beds, I have lived, I have completed now the course that fortune long ago allotted me. If God adds the morrow, we should accept it joyfully. The man who looks for the morrow without worrying over it knows a peaceful independence and a happiness beyond all others. Whoever has said, I have lived, receives a windfall every day he gets up in the morning. But I must close this letter now. What? You'll be saying. Is it coming to me just as it is without any parting contribution? Don't worry, it's bringing you something. Why did I call it something, though? It's a great deal. For what could be more splendid than the following saying, which I'm entrusting to this letter of mine for delivery to you? To live under quote, to live under constraint is a misfortune, but there is no constraint to live under constraint. Of course not, when on every side there are plenty of short and easy roads of freedoms there for the taking. Let us thank God that no one can be held a prisoner in life. The very constraints can be trampled underfoot. It was Epicurus who said that, you protest. What business have you got with someone else's property? Whatever is true is my property, and I shall persist in inflicting Epicurus on you, in order to bring it home to the people who take an oath of allegiance to someone and never afterwards consider what is being said, but only who said it, that the things of greatest merit are common property. Well, ideas aren't property, neither are truths, but it is cool to see, a guy from a competing school at the time, from the Stoic school, quoting the head of the Epicurean school. That's neat. Shows he has an open mind when he can find the good in other philosophers or philosophies. That's cool. All right, that's the end of that letter. We'll pick up next time with 15. That was good stuff. Whew, it is difficult. It is this process is stressing all of my other habits. It steals my focus away and constantly brings it back to, discomfort or my physical state, things like that. That's one of the reasons why I didn't do these think time videos the last couple of days. Like, a lot of my habits broke down, which is not good and probably is something I need to work on. But I was more focused on working on what it's like when I'm hungry. So like I'm a type of person, and I don't know if this is physiological or maybe training. I don't know where this came from, if it's genetic or whatever, but I get the hangries really bad. So when I get hungry, I just get super grumpy. And so fasting obviously is like a marathon of hangriness, right? And that's one of the reasons why it's important to do it. It's to overcome, to tackle those problems head on, to overcome them, to work on myself, to figure out how to exist in a state of hunger without just being an all-around asshole. Also, it's like an excuse. It's like, well, I get hungry, and therefore it's sort of, you allow yourself more space to sort of be a dick when you're hungry, unconsciously, of course, right? And so this is sort of removing that as an excuse. It's like, well, I'm choosing to be hungry, so I can't also be a dick. And that's good too. I don't want to talk too long about this, but being in the middle of it right now, which is, one of the harder points. I really enjoy the challenge and the conquering of the problems. I definitely think every single person should try this, and should do it every so often. It's really, really good. It's good to overcome the mental challenges, good to overcome the physical challenges. It teaches you about life and yourself. Day one was just mostly, kind of being grumpy and experiencing the physical hunger. Day two, for me, was all physical, very little mental challenge. It was just pushing through the discomfort. Day three was like the hunger sort of subsided and was all mental for me. It was all dealing with grumpy, low energy, scatterbrained. It was all mental. And we'll see what today's like. We're on day 4. I'm over the halfway mark, and the hunger is after day 2. After day 2, the hunger pains are significantly reduced. So it's mainly just sort of dealing with I don't know. I get bursts of mega energy, but then I also get bursts of super low energy. So it's interesting. It's really interesting, and it's wild to just realize, like I said in the beginning, eating every day is not necessary. So I think I might add this to one of my random habits. Maybe like I'll fast 1 or 2 days a month, and then maybe every 6 months or every year, I'll do one of these 7 days just to sort of shake the body up and get things in order. All right, guys. Have a great day.